Hey, what's going on everyone? This is iReviews back with another video, and if you have updated your device to iOS 17.6 or the latest 17.6.1, these are a few tips and tricks that will help you fix the battery drain issues that you might have on your device. Now, first of all, we're going to start with apps. Now, usually when Apple releases a new software update, especially like a bigger one like 17.6, then you will have a ton of updates for apps as well. What you need to do is head on to your account under the App Store app and make sure you have all of your apps up to date so they're optimized to work with the latest software update that you have installed on your iPhone. The next thing I suggest you do is head on to your settings and go under battery. When you go under battery, right here you will see the apps that are using the most battery on your iPhone. Switch to the last 10 days right there and you can see how much each of the apps have used during the past 10 days. Now, if you see here apps that are using a ton of battery, but you're not actually using them a lot on your device, then go ahead and delete those apps from your iPhone. Like, let's say you have maybe like an app, like an editor or something like that, that you use very rarely, but it's still somewhere here at the top of the list. Make sure you replace that with another app. Something that does play a huge role when it comes to battery life are haptics. So you need to be aware of how you have set them up on your iPhone because the haptic engine does consume a ton of battery. So head on to your settings under sounds and haptics, go right here under haptics and you will have a few options. Now I suggest you use play in silent mode, which means that for your ringtone and your alerts, which are the notifications and other alerts, you will only get the haptic feedback when your device is on silent mode. And then go back here and you will also have here system haptics. Now that's kind of like a feature you might need because it just feels better to use your iOS device with the system haptics turned on. But then you will have something like the keyboard haptics. If you use the keyboard a lot, this will also consume a ton of battery. So if you're typing during all the day, make sure you turn this off as well. Another thing that does play a huge role on battery life are of course location services, but we're focusing here on system services. These are not apps but system services that will all the time be working in the background. So go under location services and go to system services and you will have things like alerts and shortcuts right there, automations. You will have compass calibration, you will have maybe HomeKit, motion and distance, setting a time zone, some of the things that you don't actually need. Of course, there are really important things here like emergency calls and SOS and Find My Phone that you should never turn off, but some of them are actually not very important, like iPhone analytics for example, and then you will have significant locations as well. You can also go ahead and turn that off and it should save a ton of battery. Next up is 5G. You need to be really careful on how you actually configure your 5G settings. So if you're on a place where you do have great 5G coverage, then you can use 5G auto. But if you have like low 5G coverage and you keep this on, or you keep 5G on all the time, it will just consume a ton of battery as it's always trying to connect to 5G. So if you know that the 5G coverage is not that good, it's better you switch to 4G or LTE, whichever one you have, rather than keeping 5G on. It does consume a ton of battery. Next up, we're moving under display and brightness, and right here you will have always on display. Now, the always on display is not supposed to actually consume a ton of battery, but it does still consume battery. According to Apple, it will consume like 1% for 1 hour. So during that day, of course, that will pile up and it will be quite a significant percentage of battery that the always on display will consume on your iPhone. So if you're having battery problems, you're better off by turning completely off the always on display. And as you probably know, on iOS, since iOS 17, you can also have these kind of like live or motion wallpapers, whatever you want to call them. Now they do animate every time you wake up the screen of your iPhone. That is of course always consuming battery, so make sure you use just a normal wallpaper. Now, one really cool feature of iOS are the auto downloads for your apps. You will have things like the App Store apps or maybe the news apps that do offer auto download, so you don't have to bother with them. But they might just start downloading or updating stuff right when you don't have enough battery on your iPhone. So if you're having big issues with your battery and you're always running out of battery, make sure you go under the App Store here. Here will have your automatic downloads and you can just turn them off right here and then just update your apps manually and download your apps manually. The same can be done, of course, if you go to the news settings. Moving on under the general settings, and right here we will have Airdrop. Now this feature, bringing the device together, name drop, is a pretty cool feature. It looks cool and of course it's kind of cool to do that, but most of the time or very early you will basically be using it. Most of the time you don't need this feature. You'll probably just use Airdrop as we have been using it for years, so I suggest you go ahead and turn that off as well. Next up, we're moving under the journal app settings, so go to journal and right here we'll have journaling suggestions. Make sure you go ahead and switch these off. These will just consume a ton of battery, so you will have right here like everything that can be accessed from your journaling suggestions. Right here you will have all kinds of different things that the journaling suggestions will basically be enabled for. Like you can see everything here, you can just turn them off completely. Of course, if you actually use the app and you really need them, you can choose which ones you want to keep on. Otherwise, go ahead and completely switch them off, or if you just don't use the app, just completely delete it from your device. Moving back here under privacy and security, and we have a feature here called App Privacy Report. Now what this will do is, of course, it will just collect data from your apps and will let you know which apps are using data and sensors and which apps are using network activity on your device, basically giving you a report of what every app is using on your device. Of course, here, when did they use something like the camera or maybe your contacts, at what time, after how many minutes, and what did they exactly use. Of course, things like this that do work in the background always require CPU power, always require battery life, so go ahead and switch this off if you don't actually use it. Now the same goes for screen time. You know, all the reports that you get for screen time, everything that you get on your device, as it's basically a collection of data that needs to be collected during time it requires for your iOS device to work in the background, that way consuming a ton of battery. So if you're not using screen time, you can just go ahead and completely turn it off. And the All-Trick background app refresh, which you can find, of course, under the general settings. Go ahead and take a look at this list of apps right here. See which of the apps you don't need to be refreshing in the background. There should be a ton of these apps you don't actually need to be working in the background, so just go ahead and completely turn them off. As usual, one of the biggest battery drainers on iOS are notifications. You're getting a ton of notifications, maybe from apps that you don't actually need them. You will have your iPhone like send you an alert, a vibration, the screen will turn on. That way it does consume a ton of battery just for one notification. So make sure to check all of your apps here, see which apps have notifications turned on. If you don't need notifications from apps like this, for example, you can go ahead and just switch it off, or choose to place your apps on a couple of scheduled summaries so you get those notifications that are not that important, maybe once or twice or 3 times a day, and you don't have notifications just turning on the screen of your device all the time. And last but not least, don't close your apps, especially the apps that you use frequently, use like a few times during the day. Don't close them from the app switcher. Every time you close an app, that app has to actually relaunch, as you can see right here, from the beginning. Apple has suggested you do this. You keep your apps on the app switcher because they are there basically ready just to open them. You don't need to close them because then they will have to use extra power to relaunch from the beginning. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it will help you get a better battery life on your iPhone. That's it. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.